Hello and welcome to this screencast, which is going to show you how to configure a instant Indicia installation to set up online recording on it. And before you start, you should have a warehouse set up with a website registration, which we've covered in other screencasts. It needs a survey. I've also created a species list called My Garden Species, and I've populated with that with some damselfly names just to get us started. And I've got an instant Indicia installation which I've not yet done anything to, and this is the end result of following the screencast through on installing instant Indicia. So before we go on, one of the things I do want to do with my survey records is capture information about who made the record, and when someone logs into my instant Indicia site, they're providing me with a username, an ID, a password, these bits of information are available. So I want to store those against the record so that if in future I need to cross-refer back to the recorder, I can do. And the way to do this is to go and configure the survey that we've created for capturing garden records. And we're looking at the attributes for the survey called My Garden Records. And in Indicia you can configure custom attributes that are captured on a survey by survey basis. So for the samples captured by this survey, we want to add some extra fields, and that's the CMS user ID. That's the most important one, the user ID of the content management system user. You can add that attribute. We also want to capture the username and their email address. Now, when someone logs into Instant Indicia, because the system knows those things, that it doesn't need to display them on the form. But if I were to add something like a weather field, for example, it would appear on the form. Well, we'll do that and you can see the effects. So we'll add the weather field, press save. Okay, now over to Instant Indicia. First thing we need to do with Instant Indicia itself is test that it's actually connected up to the warehouse properly. So this is a way of testing the configuration of Instant Indicia, that it knows where the warehouse is. It has a username and password, or an ID and password that lets it connect properly. And the important thing I was looking for here is that the Indicia warehouse URL did indeed respond to our request. Not too worried about these warnings here about some API keys being missing, because those are just registration keys for various web services that I'm not going to use in this demo. Okay, so we have a working Instant Indicia installation, and next thing we want to do is select which features we're going to actually support on our website. So this is one of the key areas of Instant Indicia, where you've got a set of features, like, for example, here if there's a verification page, there's some data input forms. If we go under miscellaneous features, you'll see you can even just turn on a discussion forum or a home page. You can turn on terms of use facilities, so when people register on the site they have to agree to your terms and conditions. There's a reporting section, and as time goes on, I'm sure these the available features here for you to turn on will expand quite considerably, but this is just the first release of Instant Indicia. So we want to turn on an input form called the tabbed data entry form. Okay, so it's just going to chug away, and you'll see magically it's created a submit sightings link at the top. But there is actually this warning here: if you've activated a feature and it contains some Indicia pages, you need to go to Indicia Features Review to check that the settings specific to your site are actually filled in. So most of the settings of this form are things you don't need to worry about. There are a few you just need to check because they will vary on a site-by-site basis. So we're going to just check the first set of settings is called georeferencing, and what this is it allows when a user searches for a place on a form on a map, if they type in, for example, Upton, there's a village in Dorset called Upton, but there's also about a dozen others across the country. If I were to change that to Dorset, it means that the search is going to be filtered down to places inside Dorset. Next set of configuration options is the species lists we want to record against, and there are two available. And the first one is if you're inputting into a grid, which list of species do you want to see in front of you automatically when you start the form up, and you can just tick them off. the extra species list are the ones you can add to the end of the grid. So what I'm going to do is actually leave the grid initially blank, but let people add the species they see to that grid. Finally, we need to link our form to the survey that we've created on the warehouse and save the settings. Now we can proceed to the form and test it out. So we're going to try red-eyed damselfly, some random things here as your damselfly. So this form by default has a Where Was It tab. You can of course configure the layout of the form and the titles and so on, and that lets the user enter the location of the record. So I'm going to search for a town near where I know the record was created, and that zooms the map into that town, and I can just double click to zoom into where I know the record was created. It was just by this bridge here. Actually, I'll zoom one out. Try again. I don't want the grid square to be smaller than is realistic for the accuracy of the record. So, and the grid square size will change according to how zoomed in and out of the map I am. Proceed to the other information. You can see that we need to provide the date. This is a random record, so I don't really care. Comment, we could say it was sunny. Actually, we don't need to do that because we created a box for the weather. Overall comment, late afternoon, and the weather we can say it was sunny. Of course, this is a very fictitious record then, not likely to be around at this time of year. That's it, save the record. It's not much good having a system like this where people can type in their records and not actually then get them out again and have a look at them. So let's have a look at what other features are available in Instant Indicia. So select which features you want on your website, and this time we want some reports. We want the user to be able to get data back out, and we want them to have a look at a list of their own records. Save the settings. If you watch the menu, you'll see what's happening. There we go, the My Records link has magically appeared. I click on that, I get a grid. I've got some simple filters where I can choose a taxon group. We've only got damselflies in ours, of course, so far. Or I can filter by date range. You can configure these reports and have different filters available. And you can download the data, of course, into a spreadsheet. So with one click, we've managed to add a report for letting users browse their records. Okay, so that's a good quick introduction into Instant Indicia.